Hey everybody, Coach Mills here, and today I'm going to be breaking down some Overwatch patch notes that just came out September 24th. So these patch notes have some really serious implications for meta changes, and I know a lot of people have been asking about this. Many people message me and come talk to me and say that they're really upset with the meta. They don't like double shield, they don't like Doomfist, Symmetra, and I have great news for you. In my opinion, this means that Dive is back, and I'm going to really break down exactly why, and it's an exciting time, and I just want you to come in and jump right into it with me. So let's get right into it. Okay, so now we're going to be breaking down the patch notes. So the first notes that we come across is Diva. So Diva has been really poor. She's been one of the worst tanks in this meta, so I want to really see her get a buff, and let's kind of break down exactly what she gets right here. So her defense matrix, her regeneration rate increased from 12.5 seconds to 16 per second. A lot of times her DM, she wants to use it, so she has to save it for key times, but the regeneration rate is too slow. So now you get to kind of use it a little bit more frequently. You get to have it on cooldown. This is just an overall buff to one of the most powerful aspects of her kit, so that's great. And the delay before regeneration begins lowered from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. This is not as big of a buff, but it's still a buff. This is just improving her defense matrix quality of life, so this is a really good buff. This is a buff that's going to make her better as a hero. I'm not quite sure that it's going to put her to the same limelight that she was. So now we're going on to Orisa. So with Orisa, her cooldown is from 9 seconds to 10 seconds. Okay, this is another thing. It's a lot better. So they just keep increasing her cooldown, right? They can increase the cooldown on her protective barrier. This just allows for more opportunity for us to kill her, right? The shield felt like a permanent shield. It felt like something that you could never break through, you could never break down. With 10 seconds, there's more opportunity of a window for you to actually punish a shield that goes down, punish the Orisa. So spam is a little bit better. That's great. That's great for double shield. Hopefully this gets rid of Orisa, kind of takes her out of the meta a little bit. We've had Ryan buffs in the past, but Ryan still hasn't been able to see a lot of play. So let's really hope that this has better implications for the meta, okay? Roadhog, they gave Roadhog a buff, which is insane because Roadhog hasn't been meta for a while. He saw some meta in the suck pool combo simply due to the fact that he paired really well with Orisa, but was quickly overshadowed by Sigma. But there's some particular buffs to Roadhog and specifically nerfs to Sigma that have to do with Roadhog that I think are going to be insane, and I think you're gonna really like. Okay, so the first one is Roadhog's scrap gun. So his just primary fire, right? Its ammunition has been increased from 5 to 6. This is just a quality of life change. In the past it was 4, then it was 5, now it's 6. So this allows him to just be a more adequate like disher of damage. But the most important Roadhog buff in my opinion is this one that comes from a Sigma nerf. So now kinetic grasp no longer blocks chain hook and whip shot. Okay, so the important one we're talking about here is chain hook. So Roadhog can actually hook a Sigma who is using kinetic grasp, which now this works exactly as you kind of would think it would work intrinsically, because even a Diva that's defense matrixing, you can Roadhog hook, but now Roadhog can hook Sigma through the kinetic grasp. So that's an extremely strong thing. That means that Roadhog is actually kind of a Sigma counter. He can use a scrap gun to burst down Sigma's really weak shield, and then if Sigma tries to use his kinetic grasp to try to balance out that shield health, Roadhog can punish him for that. So that's a really interesting matchup. Roadhog is actually kind of a Sigma counter now, which is really cool. Another thing, Sigma, going on Sigma, gravitic flux. The high gravity effect duration reduced from 1.2 to 0.9. This overall just weakens the effect of gravitic flux. It weakens that CC aspect on teams, so it gives a little bit more counterplay. Gravitic flux kind of it's kind of felt kind of oppressive. It's really turned completely team fights that have thought to be lost in a way that other ults simply can't. So I'm glad about them kind of taking some of the power level away from gravitic flux. And then the experimental barrier, this is an interesting one. The regeneration rate reduced from 175 to 150 per second. Now, this is interesting because it means that he's just not going to have his shield regenerate as fast. So he's going to have to be a little bit more cautious. This is just taking a lot of Sigma's power as a main tank away from him. It's not a huge nerf, but it still matters, and it's still pretty sizable. It's going to make him a little bit weaker overall. It has a 1 second cooldown after recalling the barrier. This is important. So when Sigma recalls that barrier, there's a tiny window of opportunity where you can try to hit a skill shot on him. You can try to headshot him. You can try to throw a nade at him, get a sleep dart in, maybe even hit him with an accretion of your own. This is really strong. It gives more power to Roadhog in that matchup, and it also gives a little time frame where you can punish Sigma. Now, it comes with a tiny bit of a buff. The initial 0.2 seconds of cast time is removed, but overall, I think this is a nerf to Sigma, and I think that this is a good change. Sigma was a little bit overtuned in my opinion, and I think that this with the Orisa barrier nerfs, I think, actively give other team compositions, some tank team compositions, a viable precedence. So I think that's good going forward. This is a huge one, okay? Winston, projected barrier. So the duration was increased from 6 seconds to 9 seconds. This is incredible, okay? If the Winston barrier isn't focused down, it's going to be there for 3 seconds longer. This actually just can create a lot more space than before, specifically against team comps that don't actively focus down this projected barrier. So that's an insane buff. And not to mention, it gets another 100 health. Now it's at 700. So this is really insane for Winston. And I really like that this is going to give him more top-end power. He's going to be able to make more space. It's just better for him overall. It's an insane buff. We've been asking for a Winston buff for a long time, and I'm really happy where they went with it, okay? Now, we're going to be moving on to some of the other heroes, so let's go on to Baptiste. Now, Immortality Field, the health got decreased from 250 to 200. I think this is a really good change because I know that there have been a lot of frustrating moments where Immortality Field has been a little bit too strong to where your team is not actively focusing it down and you can't quite kill it in time to get your ultimate impact. Ideally, you want Immortality Field to kind of be this instant speed type of save, or kind of a way to, if the Baptiste has correct timing, he can use it to really clutch out a team fight. But you don't want it to be this thing that's extremely hard for you to focus, and then if your team, no one's focusing down the Immortality Field and you have to try to do it alone, it's extremely hard because of how much health it has. So I think this is a good change. It definitely makes Baptiste a little bit weaker, but I think that is good because I think he's a little bit overtuned, especially for the double shield meta. So I think that's great. Okay, so now let's move on to the Lucio one. This one might be a little bit controversial, but I do want to break down exactly what this means, and I think it's a good change overall. So his crossfade, so his speed boost effect increased from 20% to 25%. So this means it's good for diving onto enemy teams. This means it's good for Ryan Zarya. This is a lot of implications. What that speed boost doesn't really do is anything for someone like Orisa Sigma. It does a lot less for them than it does for other team comps, and I think this is a great change because you really can push up on those bunker comps. It gives a lot more compatibility and a lot more strength to other comps that use Lucio, so that's a good change. The amp it up, so speed boost amplification increased from 50 to 60. This is just furthering what I just talked about, where you can really engage onto the enemy team a lot faster. This helps dive, this helps find Zarya, and it doesn't equally help team compositions like Orisa Sigma or any type of bunker comp. So I think this is great to do. The only reason that they really nerfed this in the first place is because of the power of goats, and ultimately it didn't actually nerf goats enough. So I'm glad that they're reverting a lot of these things back. Anyways, let's move on to another support. Mercy, so her Valkyrie, during her ultimate, she can actually heal through barriers. This is extremely strong, so she can kind of heal from a safer distance. It's not like an insane buff, but it's still like a nice quality of life change. So that's good. Let's move on to Mora. So her Biotic Grasp, her self-healing has been reduced from 30 to 20. This is an insanely important nerf because it means that Mora can't actively duel people as easy. So if you're a character that does a certain amount of damage per second, you actually have a much better matchup against Mora because she can't heal herself. You know, have you ever been in those scenarios where you're like Tracer, Genji, you know, even a hit scan like Soldier, and you're just missing just enough shots to where you can't burst down their Mora, and she just keeps getting low, but you can't finish her off. So this kind of deals with that problem. It makes her a little bit worse at actually, you know, taking those duels and stuff like that. So I think this is a great change. I think Mora was also a little bit overtuned, but that might have been a meta implication, but I think this is a good change overall. So now this is it's another one that's gonna be controversial. Doomfist was, in some people's mind, he was overtuned, and in other people's mind, he was a product of the meta of double shield. Either way, these are the nerfs that we got now, and they're pretty big ones, okay? Time to reach maximum charge on Rocket Punch went from 1 second to 1.4 seconds. This is an insane nerf, and I'm going to be showing examples and clips while I'm talking over this, but that means it's really slow. That means Doomfist, you're going to be wanting to get craftier. Drop from high ground with the punch already charged, kind of do some more rollouts, some seismic slamming in and uppercutting. You could still use the punch, the glide punch cancel in order to fly away. So in a lot of ways, he still has his mobility, but this really kind of nerfs this ability, and I think this is probably good for the majority of players. A lot of people really have problems with this ability, so I don't mind this Rocket Punch change. Now, the one I'm skeptical is tying it with another big nerf to Doomfist. And instead of just doing one at a time, they really nerfed Doomfist really hard, and I'm going to explain why. So this shield health gained reduced 35 to 30. Okay, this is an insane one. This means that he's just going to be less brawly. He's not going to be able to get as many shields. So not only is he less lethal with Rocket Punch, he can't brawl as much. So you have to play far more safe. You have to play pickoffs, and I think that with double shield going away, with Roadhog getting a buff, I honestly think that Doomfist is going to be a pretty rough spot going into this next meta, and I think that's probably good news for a lot of people. A lot of people are really upset with how good Doomfist is, and I don't blame them. So, okay, now Sombra. So this is a really interesting one. So Sombra's translocate, so her cooldown increased from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. Seems pretty bad, right? 2 seconds increased. Sombra wasn't in that great of a place in the first place, but the second part's interesting. So now the cooldown begins immediately upon deploying the beacon, or if it's killed by an enemy. So what that means is you can throw a translocator in a spot, and after you wait the 6 seconds, you can actually translocate to that spot, and you'll immediately have your translocator off cooldown. So what I mean by that is you can throw, wait the 6 seconds, translocate to that spot, immediately throw, and translocate again. Then you have to wait the 6 seconds. But this allows us for some really cool chain plays. It allows for some cool setups. It kind of feels interesting, and I'm skeptical about how it's going to turn out, but I've talked to some people that really like Sombra, and they think that they like this change. So let's put a big question mark on exactly what that means as for Sombra, okay? Now let's go on to Symmetra. So Symmetra got some huge nerfs, okay? The Photon Barrier, which is her ult, the duration went from 15 seconds to 12 seconds, which is great. I think Photon Barrier lasted way too long. You could have a Photon Barrier, you could beat in the fight, and you could trance, and it'd still be up. The barrier is just way too long. I'm glad that it got nerfed. I think that barrier was just too often just a complete team fight win without investing insane amounts of resources into it. The health got reduced from 5,000 to 4,000. I don't think that's really that relevant, but it could be relevant in some situations. But I'm really glad about the duration nerf. I like that. Now, these other things kind of make her far weaker than she was before. So her sentry turret, the damage per second got reduced from 50 to 40. Symmetra is kind of relegated to being a far weaker pick than she was. I mean, with these potential PTR nerfs, Symmetra is going to be in a really poor spot. I think she was already going to be not that great simply due to the fact that I think double shield is going to kind of take a back seat. But regardless, Symmetra's probably not going to be a DPS that you want to pick in your coming games. I don't think that she's going to be that good going forward. Okay, so now we're going to go on to a Tracer buff. Now, this is incredible because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever had a Tracer buff like this. We've had Tracer getting buffed with her Pulse Bomb, right? But she was nerfed from 400 damage to 300 damage and then back up to 350. This is just a straight-up change to our Pulse Pistols, allowing for the damage fall-off to start at 13 meters instead of 10. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but I assure you it is a big deal. It allows for potential one clips from farther away. It allows for an increase in duels between other DPS players. You can play from a safer distance. This is definitely a strong buff to Tracer. So, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So, if you look back, look at the characters that really got nerfed. Orisa, Sigma, Baptiste, and Moira, okay, and Doomfist as well. So these are some of the big characters that got nerfed, and they were some of the predominant characters in the past meta, the double shield meta, okay? I think if this patch goes live, we're going to see Dive coming back. That means Tracer, that means Winston, Diva, Genji, and Lucio, potentially Ana, maybe even some Zen back in the meta. We're going to see a lot more of that, and that's because Diva got a quality of life buff. Winston got an insane buff to his projectile barrier. Not to mention that, but Tracer even got a buff. So I think all these in combination with the Lucio crossfade amp it up buff, we're going to see Dive back, and it's going to be better than ever. It's going to be really strong. There's going to be some counterplay. I think Ryan Zarya still has a potential to see some play. I definitely still think Orisa's not unplayable. Orisa Roadhog might still be strong, but I think the meta is going to be extremely diverse. It's going to be fun to figure out. I think pro matches are going to be more fun to play. Your rank games are going to be more fun to play. And a lot of the characters that have not seen any play just simply due to the double shield, I think double shield is assuredly dead. I'm fairly certain that it's not anywhere near as powerful as it was. And at the very least, it's going to be a lot more fun to play some of these matchups that you can actually play Dive now. You can maybe get some value out of Diva. You know, this is an extremely exciting PTR change. I hope every single piece of it goes live. I think this is going to be great for the game, and I hope that this has been a really fun video for you to listen to and talk about my ideas. I want you to talk about your ideas as well. I want you to have a conversation with me. I love to have that conversation with people, and I want to see your insight to it. If anyone doesn't know, my name is Coach Mills, and talk to you next time.
GameLeap is the proven way to help you reach your desired rank fast. Our website, GameLeap.com, is the most comprehensive library of pro player guides available. You'll find dozens of in-depth courses that are carefully crafted by players in the top 500 bracket so you can start winning a lot more of your games. Get your membership today at 25% off. It costs about the same as a Twitch sub, so you can get much more value in return. We're so confident in our product that if you don't like it, we're happy to issue a full refund. So get your membership today by clicking right here. See you on the inside.